Hey, it's Pat here. Thank you for joining me today, where we're going to talk about some business and entrepreneurship horror stories. By horror stories, I don't mean like Jason or Freddy or Pinhead or Halloween type stories. I'm talking about stories where things didn't necessarily go according to plan. Things got really scary. Things brought me a lot of anxiety. And I wanted to share these stories with you so that you can, number one, know that um, even though things might be tough, maybe it'll make yourself feel a little bit better because number one, you'll know that you're not alone in going through some tough times, or perhaps maybe it's not as bad as what I've gone through. Secondly, to give you some encouragement moving forward that despite there being not so great things happening, you can still push forward and persevere and win on the other side. So that's what we're talking about today, trying to get real with y'all and looking forward to our conversations today. Thanks so much. And let's start the show. Here we go.
This is the income stream to help you achieve your dream. All while we keep it clean. This is the income stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The income stream with Pat Flynn.
All right, welcome in everybody. Thank you. We got Grandma Goody, we got Chuji, we got Kyle, Burke, Asma, Celine, Stephanie, Andrew, Wendy, Daniela. Thank you so much for coming in. Peasant Uprising, Mahipal, Uncle Bill. Welcome. Thank you so much today. Now, first of all, I just want to preface this entire show, this entire episode today by talking about the fact that, I don't want to scare you. I'm not here to share with you horror stories because I want to scare you away from entrepreneurship or anything like that. I want to share these things with you just to share with you what might happen and that it's okay. And hopefully learn from these things. Some of them were based on mistakes that I've made. Some were things that I just didn't have any control over myself. But again, I want to share these things so that we can all be better prepared moving forward. Ungrateful Peasant, what's up? Good to see you here. Afternoon, first time making it live. Welcome in. Thanks so much. High five to all the newbies in the house. Welcome in. And again, let's get to some stories. So I have probably dozens of different quote unquote horror stories in the world of business and entrepreneurship that I could share with you, but I pulled out a few that I just want to dive a little bit deeper into because, again, they're reality. It happens, but it's also something that's really important to understand that, it could be a part of this. It could be a part of your story too, but it's, not necessarily what happens to you. It's what you do with it, how you react to those certain situations, right? So let's tell you a quick story. So I first started out in business helping people pass an architectural exam. In fact, that website still exists today. It's called greenexamacademy.com. And this website was built, like I said, to help people pass a really difficult exam in the architecture space. And this was launched in the middle and toward the end of 2008. And fortunately, it was doing extremely well. I was very, very excited about how it was going. It actually saved me from getting laid off and all that kind of stuff. And it was able to allow me to support my family that was growing and having just gotten married, all this stuff. So this is why I have a huge tie into and a big sort of just love for entrepreneurship, because it was something that allowed me to sort of come back out of a terrible situation, having gotten laid off, and then go into something even better, which was pretty cool. But eventually it got to the point where I was getting in pretty deep, right? And so I was really excited about things. And then all of a sudden I get this letter in the mail from the United States Green Building Council, the USGBC. Now, the United States Green Building Council, it sounds very scary, but it's actually the company that I actually was studying this exam for. This is the company that writes the questions for the exam, and a governing body within the world of green architecture that I've come to love and enjoy. So, I was excited to get this letter until I started to read it, and it was actually a letter on behalf of them from an attorney. This attorney had basically sent a very stern letter to tell me that I was breaking the rules, that I needed to stop doing what I was doing on my architecture website within 14 days, or else further legal action would be taken. And that's always a scary phrase to see, right? Further legal action. I'm just like, well, what could that be? Am I going to lose my house? Am I going to lose my, money and accounts and all this? Your brain starts to race with all these different things. And then all of a sudden I started to get all this anxiety. I started to panic. I didn't know what was going on. And my first notion was, okay, I give up. I'm done. I'm done with entrepreneurship. I guess I was not cut out for this. I'm treading on thin ice already, having not knowing what I'm doing. And here I am getting in trouble already. I guess I wasn't cut out for this. I should have went to school or something for for entrepreneurship. In fact, if I didn't want to put myself in these situations. So anyway, it took like a day of me just like literally having some anxiety attacks during the day because again, I thought all was lost. And eventually I found a lawyer on Google, literally, that I called, and I got some help. And they got access to the letter as well. And essentially, it wasn't as bad as I thought, thankfully. But it was still something that we had to take action on. So what happened was I had a trademark in my domain name. My domain name at the time was in the lead, LEED, which stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. And I was using that in my domain name. I thought it was a clever, unique name, in the lead. Um, and the fact of the matter is, I was helping the United States Green Building Council help more people pass this exam. I was giving people more confidence to take the exam, which ultimately made them more money. Yet this letter basically said that I was not allowed to use their trademark in the domain name, that I had to change it within 14 days, or else again, further legal action would be taken. So I didn't know what to do because I had spent, 6 months to a year building this website and I was afraid of losing it. I felt like that this meant I had to start somewhere else and fresh and just take this one down. Thankfully, I had access to a group of people who kind of knew and understood this world a little bit, who said, no, all you have to do is what's called a 301 permanent redirect. That means that essentially you create a copy of the website on another domain name, and you just change you do this code thing on your website on your old one to basically go, oh, no, Google, that's not where we want to go. We want to go here. And anybody who goes to inthelead.com would then end up on greenexamacademy.com. That's where Green Exam Academy came from. It was a little bit of just, I need a generic term, and a little bit of inspiration from the Internet Business Mastery Academy, which I was a part of, where I got access to this group who was telling me all this stuff. So I did the 301 permanent redirect. I hired a guy for $100 to put some code on my website because, again, I had no idea what I was doing. And within 2 weeks, I started to notice that when people went to inthelead.com, they would automatically get redirected to greenexamacademy.com. My attorney was like, okay, cool, this should work. We sent them back a letter and everything was good. Or so I thought. 2 weeks later, we get another letter. And this time it was addressed to my attorney on my behalf, and just because now they're sort of communicating with each other. And it basically said, hey, you're still using the domain name. Like, yeah, people end up on greenexamacademy.com, but you're literally still using it, and you're not allowed to use it at all. You need to permanently shut that down. And I was a little worried because it takes time for the 301 permanent redirect to take place, to have Google understand that the new website is this one and the old website shouldn't be existing in the directories and into the search results anymore. And they gave us 7 days. They were pushing really hard. And I was just like, okay, well, I'm going to wait till day 6 to give Google as much time as possible to then switch it over and completely get rid of inthelead.com and just pray and hope that everything still works. And thankfully it did. I was able to save most of my traffic. Everybody who goes to inthelead.com will see an error. In fact, I think that error still exists. Let me see if I go to, let's see what happens. Inthelead.com. Yeah. This is the same error that's been on the page since 2009. The requested resource is no longer available on this server, and there was no forwarding address. Please remove all reference to this resource. Additionally, a 410 gone error was encountered while trying to use an error document to handle the request. So that sufficed for the United States Green Building Council and what they were doing. So that was a very scary moment. And again, we're starting light here, but that was scary to me because it was very real. It was anything legal obviously can be very scary because you have no idea what's going to happen and or how much money you're going to spend. I did spend a few $1,000s combating this. This is why I'm always afraid of anybody who uses trademarks in their domains now, because I have personal experience with that, and that's just not cool. Now, that being said, there are companies who are totally fine with it. Tesla being one of them. Many other companies are completely okay for you to use their domain name and their trademark because they know that you're actually helping them and you're supporting them, which is I think the smart way to approach it personally. Any company should want people to want to promote their stuff, but it's just the confusion that might happen. That is where the worry is, especially from more traditional lawyers and traditional business owners. There are other companies that are absolute hawks and vultures related to this. Entrepreneur Magazine is one of them. If you use entrepreneur in your domain name, well, you're going to have a struggle because entrepreneur is going to come after you. They came after some friends of mine, and they've had to change their names, unfortunately. eBay, you don't want to use eBay. Amazon, you don't want to use Amazon. So that stuff kind of happens, right? So what I eventually found out is, I had a relationship with this company that sent me this letter, or the attorney sent me the letter, but the company I had a relationship with, and basically they reached out and they kind of apologized. They didn't really apologize, but they basically gave me light to exactly what was going on. And what was happening was the fact that there were many other lead websites. Again, lead was the trademark that I was using. There were a dozen other lead websites that were not good, that were saying the incorrect things, that were misleading people. And unfortunately, legally, if you're going to try to take them down for the purposes of domain and trademarks, you have to take everybody down. And so I kind of got caught in that wind, if you will, or in that net. And that just wasn't cool. So that was really scary. Anything legal like that, sometimes I get a letter in the mail from a legal counsel and I just gonna, what is this about? Oh, it's just a note to say like, how are you doing? Okay, cool. So that was a little scary. I think lawyers are like the tax man. They're scary because you know little about their work. Yeah, that's kind of true, Celine. Isabel says, your Pokemon videos are amazing. Thank you, Isabel. I appreciate you for that. So that was scary moment number one. The fact of the matter was I was using a trademark in my domain name and I shouldn't have. And I got in trouble for it, but I didn't have to pay anything, thankfully. All right, horror story number two. This again relates to websites and me, again, probably not doing as much due diligence as I should have. But I had a website at one point called foodtrucker.com. Foodtrucker.com is a website that I started in 2014 to help people who are wanting to start a food truck. Do I have a food truck? I don't. So how did I make this website and how did it become successful to a point where I was making a few $1,000s a month? We were selling books, all this kind of stuff. Well, I didn't pretend to be an expert, but I definitely stepped up and said, hey, I want to learn everything I can about this. I'm going to curate all the information out there and put it on here into these books, onto this website. Created a podcast to go along with it called Food Trucker School. And that was really fun. It was actually a very successful project. And then it sat kind of just collecting money month over month with very little work, again, passive income for several years. I recently sold that business at the beginning of 2020. And I'm very grateful that it's out of my hands now, not because I didn't want it anymore, but because now somebody can take it to the next level and do something even better with it too. In 2017, 2016, I get a nice, neat little letter again from another set of attorneys that basically said, hey, this one image on your website is owned by my client. You owe us $40,000. An exorbitant amount of money, right? I'm not going to talk specifics, but a large amount of money was requested as a result of using somebody else's IP. My assistant, not Jess, not anybody on Team SPI, but somebody who I had hired to help manage the blog part of this, which was outside of anybody on my team, had not done their due diligence and selected an image that was in fact under somebody else's ownership. And I don't know whether they pulled this from Google or another website that, again, some of these websites that have royalty-free images that aren't trusted might also pull these images from elsewhere and get you in trouble as well. Well, eventually I came to notice and learn, this was my attorney, Richard at the time, basically said, one of these. And I'm like, what do you mean one of these? And he said, well, there are a lot of companies out there that literally just wait for people to use the IP so that they can just come at them like this. And what usually happens is you usually have a negotiation to a point where you know that it's not going to be that much money, but you're still going to have to fork over some money. And there's literally nothing you can do about it. And I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? So the lesson learned was when working with an assistant, first of all, don't use other people's IP. Don't just take Google images and put them on your website. the big lesson here for me was when working with somebody, make sure it's so clear that if you want to get images or if you want to use music or whatever the intellectual property IP is, make sure you're clear to use it. And I should have approved it first. But again, I hired this person thinking that the due diligence would have been there already, but it wasn't. And that was unfortunate because 4 figures of income was headed down their route as a penalty. Now, it was knocked down from a 5-figure amount to a 4-figure amount, but it was still a little painful. It was still a little painful. And again, you never know what they might do. Anybody can sue anybody for anything, etc. And thankfully, after negotiation, again, my attorney negotiating with them, we came to a deal. I had to pay that penalty. Not cool. So again, a lot of this stuff is sort of legal stuff, but a lot of the horror stories aren't going to involve that I'm going to share with you today. Don't always involve legal type things, which I know, again, can be very scary. But that was another example of something like that happening. And it, again, just not feeling good. But a big lesson learned, and an expensive one at that. All right, so how are we doing? Are you enjoying these stories? I want to make sure who's in the room right now is not getting too scared about these things. Again, I share these stories so that you don't have to go through them yourself. I hope that we can all avoid these situations, and I'm, again, just doing them and sharing the stuff so that you don't have to go through it, or you can at least be more aware or feel like the tough things you're going through, well, at least it's not that bad, right? So my elementary school teacher was right about Google Images. LOL. Yeah. Too scary. Yes. Cool. Thank you, Adam. Congratulations on 15K on the Pokemon channel. Yeah, we hit 15K subscribers yesterday, which was really cool. Let me go check my website. I should only have images from Canva, but a sanity check shouldn't work. Yes. Most informative information. Can you chat about music? Yeah. So for music, you don't want to just use your favorite song. You definitely don't want to do that. In fact, even if you were to license that song, that license is only going to be available typically for a certain period of time. And then after that, boom, it's now illegal to use that music. You'd have to take everything down again or get the license again. Michael Hyatt had a podcast that used a Switchfoot song, and they had the license to use it. But as soon as that license ended, they had to take the whole podcast down, and that's not cool. So make sure you use royalty-free music. Royalty-free music. Now, on YouTube, I'm not saying it's okay to always use royalty-free music, but you might find that there are cases where you are either showing a clip of something, or there happens to be some music in there that maybe you're doing a cover, right? You might get copyright stricken. You might get a copyright strike on YouTube. I had an email this morning, in fact, from somebody who was freaking out because they got a copyright strike. It's not the end of the world. It just means basically YouTube has caught wind that you are using something that is owned by somebody else, and it's up to that person to decide what to do to either force you to take that down, which is a possibility. But in most cases, they're going to allow you to use the music still, but they're going to run ads on that video, even if you're not able to be monetized, because guess what? That money is not going to come to you. That's going to go to the creator who owns that piece of work. So something just to be aware of. I don't know if enjoying is the right word, says Justin. Yeah. Much appreciated, but yes, scary. Cool. Awesome. All right, so which story do we want to do next? Which story do we want to do next? Well, I can share with you, let's change it up a bit. I've told this story once before, but it's a little interesting. And I'm not going to, again, mention any names, but this goes back to Vegas. How's that? Oh, there's a horror story that happened in Vegas. Like, okay, whatever. Like, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. No, there's a point here. I was in Vegas, and I spoke at an event, had a great talk. Everything went perfect. And I'll talk, my next story after this will be one about another talk that didn't go according to plan. But this is about, something else. And it was late at night. And of course, you don't even keep track of the time because it's Vegas. They don't have clocks. They want you to stay up and gamble or whatever. And my friends and I, we were just kind of unwinding after a long, busy day of conferencing and networking and such, that we were just hanging around the craps table. And we weren't betting huge. We're not there to try to make money. For me, gambling is just entertainment, right? And I have a certain amount of money put aside if I'm going to gamble for that. And if I lose that, fine. If I win, fine. Either way, I'm having a good time. So I'm having a good time. at the craps table, throwing the die, all that kind of stuff. Everybody's having a good time. And all of a sudden, this person comes up and he starts talking to us. Very normal conversation. And then he says something very strange. I'm not going to say what he said because it is a little bit it is a little bit alarming, but it involved like somebody who we knew and something not so great happening to them. And we were just like, wow, okay, that's super weird. We all turned our shoulder. This person went away. And we're just like, whoa, what was that? This person's just on something. I don't know. Let's get back to it. So again, we're playing craps for another couple hours. And I'm going back to my hotel room because I got a flight in the morning. And I'm headed toward the elevators. And there's a bar kind of near the elevator area. And it's a little bit more on this raised platform. And I hear somebody call my name, Pat, Pat. And I go, oh, no, it's that dude. And I look and he goes, Pat, come here. I want to talk to you. I'm like, man, it's like 4 a.m. I need to go to bed. I have a flight. He's like, no, come here now. Come here now. And I go, no. And I'm with a bunch of friends too. So we're just kind of walking. I hadn't stopped to talk to this person. I'm just walking through. And he's like, Pat, come here now. Somebody's going to come here and tell you something that you need to hear right now. And I'm just like, what? First of all, how do you know that? I don't understand what's going on. I'm going to bed. So I go to bed thinking nothing of it. This person probably drunk or something. And I wake up in the morning to a phone call before my alarm was supposed to go off. And it's from my friend Michael O'Neill from the Solopreneur Hour. He calls me and he goes, hey, Pat, there's this guy down here. He said he's been like waiting to meet you. Like he seemed a little strange. Are you okay? Is there anything I can do to help you? Apparently, he had been up all night waiting for me to come out of the elevators to talk to me. This person didn't seem threatening at all. They were just saying really weird things, right? So I go, oh no, I don't want to have anything to do with this person. So I call my buddy Chris Ducker, who is a couple floors above me in the hotel. And I go, Chris, can you be my bodyguard? And can you just walk me out the door? Because I have a flight to catch. And I do not, like I told him the story, and I do not want to associate or be around this person. Can you just like protect me? So Chris Ducker was playing bodyguard. And essentially he came to my room. I got all my stuff. We went down the elevator. I peek out and I see him there still in that same bar. And I just go the long way around. I go the long way around. I exit. I get in a taxi. I head to the hotel or airport. Everything's fine. Everything's perfect. Avoided the situation. And that was it. 2 days later, on the Facebook group for this conference, there was a missing persons post. The founder of the conference said, hey, has anybody seen this person lately? Because his wife says he did not catch the plane home. I see the face. I recognize the person. It's the same dude. He'd gone missing. And I was like, what is going on here? This is like some movie or something that I'm living right now. And people were like, yeah, I saw him and he was acting weird. And, you know, I shared a little bit about the story too, to kind of help piece things together. Because I hope this person was okay, but man, what a creep. So Chris looks like he would be great for bodyguard. Yeah. Was Jason Strahan or whatever? People consider Chris to be somewhat similar to him. Maybe not as nimble and flexible, but yeah, for sure. So anyway, a week later, they found him in a hospital. He'd apparently gone outside and passed out literally like in a ditch somewhere, and woke up completely disheveled, confused. And basically they found out that there was a drug in him that apparently was like a one of those drugs that people put into other people's drinks to like intoxicate them. And apparently somebody slipped something in his drink because, you know, from what I understood about this person beforehand, like sweet guy and totally fine and not weird at all. So a number of lessons come out of this. Number one, it's you know, try to surround yourself with people who are going to support you. because there can be weird stuff that can happen. This was the most, I don't know, it's not really a stalker, but it's the most close I got to something like that, thankfully. And again, it was in a public place, and it was, I always try to put myself around people who, will be there, and Chris helping out was interesting. So yeah, it was definitely very creepy. But also, if you're in a public place, perhaps partaking in a few beverages of sorts, watch your beverage, please, because this person, it wasn't his fault, but I don't know when or how it happened. I don't think they had security footage or anything like that, but that stuff can happen, and that's very dangerous. So that is crazy. This story should be told to entrepreneurs on horror nights. Yeah. This is like if we had, if we turn the lights down and we get the lights kind of coming from below to light my face, and we could tell them at a campfire. For 351 days here, I've shared the most beautiful things about entrepreneurship. I thought it would be great to talk about one day of the things that were not so great, because that's just a little tiny micro fraction of the overall picture. But I'm just kind of sharing all of it with you today. Yeah, crazy. Do not leave your drink alone. That's one for sure. Thank you, Celine. All right. Now let me tell you about another story about a presentation that I once gave. This was 1 year after I started public speaking. My first time on stage was in 2011. I was very scared, but I did a good job. I practiced a lot and I rehearsed, and that was at the Financial Blogger Conference. And after seeing the impact that I could make on a stage, it was very apparent to me that I needed to do more of it. And it was really fun. Even though I was very scared, I still get very nervous. I still am backstage, like wanting to throw up before I go on stage, even today. It's worth doing. It's really, really fun. And I got so addicted to it that I started to find unique ways to stand out as a speaker, and wanted to try a bunch of new things every time I spoke. In 2012, at Blog World Expo, which was interestingly the same event that happened in Vegas a few years later, which is the one I was just talking about in the previous story. I was speaking at a session, and it was a really cool lecture-looking room. It was, the seats were sort of like down, sort of atrium style, and I was at the bottom, sort of like a professor at a college, right? So it was like perfect setting for my presentation, giant slide screen behind me, and I had my clicker, and the projector was there, and I just knew this content so well. Like, I knew this content so well. The topic of it was how to be everywhere. And it's this idea of you positioning yourself in different places so that it seems like you're everywhere. It's not legit like be on every social media platform. It's just pick and choose the ones where your people are at, and you'll seem like you're everywhere. And I knew I practiced the content so much that I memorized the whole thing. I didn't even need the slides, but I had slides to help support the presentation. Well, I am going through my intro and my presentation. I'm clicking through the slides. And as I'm 7 to 10 minutes in, because again, I'm doing so well, I don't even need to look at the slides. I've choreographed this thing, where I'm standing, what button I'm clicking, and when. All of a sudden, I start to hear people laugh. And I have no idea why. This is not a comedic presentation. Little chuckle here and there. And every time I hit the slides, I notice that my audience is chuckling a little bit. So eventually I look back and I do a triple take. What I saw was what was supposed to be the words "how to be everywhere" in big bold letters was the words HO to be every W. Ho to be every W. And apparently, the custom fonts that I used in my presentation on my computer, when I transferred the keynote presentation from my computer to the presentation computer, it didn't have those unique fonts. So it defaulted to Arial, which was much wider than the fonts that I was using. So therefore, people only saw a fraction of what I was hoping to show, and legit every single slide in the deck is now ruined. Every single slide in the deck was ruined. And I remember freaking out. I remember going behind the podium and going like, you know how like when there's something going on medical wise, people go, "Hey, is there a doctor in the house?" I said, "Hey, is there a technical guy in the house?" Like I got really, really scared about it. And in fact, this was such a famous moment this year that a buddy of mine created a Pat Flynn GIF reaction presentation. I'm looking for it. I don't know if I'll find it. Oh my gosh. It is here. I haven't seen this in years. It's on Giphy Cat. And I don't know if we could see it here. But here on the right-hand side was that moment. I look at the screen and I see exactly what's going on. What? What? Oh, gosh. Deflated. Look at that. Just deflated in that moment. That was the moment. I got all dressed up. It was all going well. And what? That was the moment. I wanted to trigger the escape button. Absolutely. So I wanted to leave. And as somebody who is very introverted, somebody who grew up worrying so much about what other people thought about him, it was not a good situation. I can't believe I found that. Thanks, Cliff Ravenscraft. Sorry, it's like on loop behind. I'm going to close my screen here really quick because, okay, I was just seeing myself do that take over and over again. So what did I do? Something in me said, you know what? Like I said earlier, I don't need the slides. I'm still going to go through it anyway. And I kept going through the presentation. And every time there was a slide that was obviously messed up, I said, oh man, that looks jacked up. And I started to like play with it. I started to actually just, again, knowing that this stuff was coming, make jokes about it and make jokes about myself. People would come into the presentation late and sit down. And I go, hey, what's your name? John? John, yeah, don't worry about the slides. They're all jacked up. And then people started laughing and I just started to feed off of that energy. And I remember specifically at the end of the presentation, several people came up to me and they said, Pat, I don't know if you meant to do that on purpose to mess up your slides, but it made you look really good the way you handled that. And I was like, wow, thank you. Another person came up and said, hey, I feel like you planned that because you just wanted to show off how well you knew this content. And I was like, I would never do that to myself. But then I got really grateful for it. And that lesson there really helped me realize that, you know, if you know the material, guess what? You don't need the slides. You don't need the slides, right? So number one, as Wendy says here, just roll with it. Just run. Not run out of the building, but just run with it. Just run with it. Just keep going. Were the audience more interested in your presentation? Yeah, I feel like they were looking at me more than they were looking at the slides, in fact. Although the way that I build slides, there isn't really much to look at. It's a picture that represents something that then I can speak off of, or a graph that shows a very important data point, but that's the only thing you see there. It's not bullet points or anything like that. That's how I run my presentations. This is more of a hero story than a horror story. Thank you, CV. Well, I wanted to present the idea that horrors can happen and you can turn them around, right? The mark of a good presenter, Pat Flynn, being able to pivot and make a blooper work for you. Thank you. Owned it. Yeah, that felt really good. But again, at the time, did not feel good at all. Let me give you one more example of presentations, then we'll move on to something else. The first conference I ever spoke at was, like I said, the Financial Blogger Conference, and I was invited to come back in 2013 to do the opening keynote, which was really cool. And so I wanted to plan something, and I had free reign to talk about whatever it is I wanted to talk about. And I came up with this idea to talk about first impressions, because my first impression of that event in 2011 was great. It made me want to come back and support. My first impression of public speaking, although very difficult, very rewarding, and I wanted to do more of it. And I was first to go up. I was the opening keynote. So I wanted to have this theme of like first impressions. And I started to consider, okay, what can I do that would leave the most incredible first impression? Like I have to like do something that helps them, that makes people go, what? So here's what I did. I planned to sit at the back of the room. They would play my intro reel with music, and then here's Pat Flynn. Let's welcome him to the stage. And I would run from the back of the room, climb up on stage, and fall right on the stage, like just fall down. because that's like the worst thing that you're always thinking of, right? Like I wanted to teach this lesson that like, hey, if I could fall flat on my face, and again, purposefully, and do that at an opening keynote in front of hundreds of people, then hey, what do you have to worry about the content that you're publishing out there in the world, right? So I decided to do that. And I coordinated this with the event because as soon as I fell flat on my face, I would actually rewind. The video would play backwards, and like that kind of thing. And then I would come back and sit back down, and then they'd bring me back up again. And then I'd carefully walk up the stairs and do that. So I had planned to do this. I got called up on the stage. I was running from the back. Boom. I fall flat on the stage. I see the entire first row get up in horror. And the presenter, who was the one who brought me on stage, who said my name, he was in on it too, and he played it really well. He was like, oh my gosh. And then all of a sudden it came back. It rewound. I went back to my chair and I came back on, and I slowly get up the stairs. And then I have trouble breathing. I'm not sure why I can't get any voice out of my voice box. And I notice that I'm breathing really hard, very short. I have people staring me in the face. I just ran like a half mile to the stage, fell down, ran backwards, and then ran back up again. I was tired. And I paused for 30 seconds. Or felt like 30 seconds. I think it was more like 10. And then I said, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And then I had like an applause, and some people stood up and were like, grateful for the performance and whatnot. Anyway, people still talk about that today. But the trouble is, when I got home, I went to the doctor because I had apparently bruised my ribs. I had bruised my ribs. Yeah, Daniela said, did you break your ribs? Yeah, I had bruised my ribs. I had practiced how to fall like a WWE wrestler, and I legit watched videos to learn how to do that. Big surface area so that you don't actually do anything that you're not supposed to and have any one pressure point, but it's all spread across all that surface area. Well, I practiced on carpet. I didn't practice on a hardwood floor. And unfortunately, I think I landed on my rib first, and that turned into, a good recovery period of about 6 weeks. But it was totally worth it. It was totally worth it. But the horror moment was when I was on stage, really, and I just couldn't breathe. I couldn't talk. And it was funny because people came up later and were like, Pat, that dramatic pause you had in the beginning was so powerful. I'm like, yeah, I meant to do that. I didn't mean to do that. So that was an actual physical injury story that came from my work as a content creator. They say content creation is safe. You gotta beware. You might bruise your ribs every once in a while. Yeah, definitely painful. So again, I'm mixing in different stories here, of course. Here's another horror story. In 2010, was challenged. I was challenged by a person who was a friend of mine, and he reached out to me and said, hey, Pat, I think it'd be really neat if you and I both started a website at the same time in a space that we have no knowledge in to see who could do better. And I went up that. I said, yeah, we could see who can be the first to either get #1 in Google or start to make money from it. And we started talking. We're like, yeah, let's make this public so we can share this with everybody. And we can actually hold each other accountable. Our audiences can hold us accountable. We both were very competitive, and it would be good lessons for everybody to watch along the way. So we're like, okay, cool. This is great. So we called it the niche site tool. We both wanted to build a niche site, and we wanted to see who can be first to make money from it and rank it in Google. So for a whole month, I wrote almost every day, sharing my progress with this and publishing on the blog. It became a very popular series of posts called the Niche Site Duel. I then did it again with the Food Trucker website later, but that first one was about security guard training. Am I a security guard? I am not, but I am somebody who knows how to get content out there for people who want it. So what I did was I built the website based on keyword research. I found that there was a major hole in that space. There were a lot of people looking for information about security guard training, how to become a security guard in the different states that we live in the US. And there was no content really out there talking about how to do it, or at least do it well. So I built the website, again, showed people how to do that. I did the keyword research first, and then I showed people how to do that. Then I built the website. Then I started creating content, showed people how I did that. How did I do that? Not being a security guard, I literally called companies in different states to ask them, hey, what's the requirement to become a security guard in your state? And they literally just told me the answer. And I would take that information, put it on the website, and it went really, really well. Well, it got to #1 in Google on day 73. So in 2 months, about two and a half months. And it started to make money. So I won the challenge, which is really cool. But my friend was also doing really well too. He was doing something in the health space, and it's eventually started to make money and rank as well. And we were both on fire. And we had a lot of people ask us, hey, can you teach me how to do that too? And I was like, well, I built a public series of posts to teach you how to do that. Like, just go read that. And they're like, yeah, I read that, but I want more. And so me and my friend were like, yo, we can create a course. Let's co-partner on a course to teach people how to do this. And it just made complete sense. We had an email list of over 1,000 people who were waiting for us to create this course, who were willing to pay, $1,000 for it, because we showed people the ROI that we had from the time we spent. My website was going to make $1,000 in less than 3 months as a result of the work I did. So there's clear ROI there. We had 1,000 people willing to pay 1,000 people willing to pay $1,000. It's $100,000 right there. That's pretty. Is it 100? No. Yeah. No. Can I do math? That's $1 million. That's $1 million business. That's what it was. $1 million business. And we were so stoked. We were about halfway building the course, and it was me mostly on video sharing the information. He was helping to put it together and all that stuff, but his name was on it too. And then something happened. He came out with a video that went public and viral on his YouTube channel. And this video was a confession. He didn't tell me this video was coming. He felt that in the moment he needed to create this and get it off his chest. So I said, okay. I watched the video, and he basically let everybody know, the entire world know, that he was lying the entire time. Because like me, he would post income reports on his website, but he said they were absolutely inflated. He made up them numbers because he wanted to get more people coming his way, because he wanted to impress people, because he wanted to drive more traffic, etc. He said he had gotten very inspired by me, but then took it a whole new direction and got caught in the excitement of it all and started to just lie about those numbers. I woke up the next morning to nearly 1,000 emails. People who were angry, people who were upset, because even though it was this person who created this video and was lying the whole time, because I was so close to this person, because I was working with him and everybody knew I was going to come out with a course with him, I just got roped in. I was just like him in that moment. And people started to question my own income reports. Now, I had the data and the reports to back that up. And I had to do that for a lot of people who were very clearly going to not just unfollow me, but do what they could to crush me because, again, of my association with this person. So I had a very, very, very honest conversation with this person the next day. And I said, our partnership is over. You know that, right? He's like, yeah, I figured that was going to happen. And I said, I have to take off every instance of mention of you on my website because I want to have nothing to do with you. I can't believe you did this. And let alone you put me and my family and my business at risk. There was no sense of, oh, let's see what we can do to fix this from me. It was, we're done. We're absolutely done. And I was very disappointed. I had to email all the people who were subscribed to the part of the email list who were excited about this course. And I said, this isn't going to happen. I do not want to associate. I had to just and it was hard. This person was like a friend, right? Like he had supported me and he was doing a lot of great things to help support the business. And here he was just confessing. And, basically all that didn't mean anything anymore. And I didn't want to have anything to do with him. So I had a lot of explaining to do, as Ricky Ricardo would say. Lucy, you got a lot of explaining to do. I had a lot of explaining to do. And I think over time, this is one of those cases where it's like there's nothing you can say in that moment that's just going to fix anything. But you have to take the right action. You have to do the right things and give it time. And the water will settle, right? The commotion will settle. So that was a huge moment that really made me go, okay, if I'm going to work with somebody, I want to know exactly who I'm working with. And are they authentic? Are they genuine? And sometimes you just don't know until it's too late. And in that case, it was. But I probably could have done more due diligence. I could have questioned at least for, again, the benefit of not because I was intrusive or anything, but because of the benefit of just us as a partnership and my business and my life and my family. That was terrible. There was a person who was a super fan who completely turned around, and he was absolutely the worst. I mean, I don't blame him, but he would not get off my back. He did not trust me anymore. He did not want to have to do anything with me anymore. And there was nothing I could say to get him back, unfortunately. And I feel like in a way, I'm still trying to make up for that from him because he had gone through some life traumatic experiences himself that I come to learn that, this was very much similar to, and he couldn't trust me anymore. I get it. But how quickly the tides can turn. Right? But again, you just kind of have to keep going. And again, associate yourself with people who you know are authentic and put yourself in a situation where if things were going to go wrong, okay, well, what can we do to right this? And just, even though you can't change things right away, do better next time from my end. So that's kind of what happened there. Character is key. Talent and skills can take you beyond what your true character can hold. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so again, we're talking business horror stories to help you feel maybe a little bit better. I know that these perhaps are a little bit scary, but there are lessons to be learned here. And also the lesson is, hey, all these things happen, and guess what? Things are going extremely well now. And you learn, you move forward, you keep going, you persevere, you have that grit, that entrepreneurial grit that's so important. And you keep going because you hopefully have something that you believe in. You have a life that you'd like to live, and you're going to work toward it whilst serving and helping others. Okay, let's keep going. We can go for days, actually, but I'm not. We're going to go for probably 5 more minutes because I have another call coming up very soon. But this one was tough because, again, this one was like all of the ones I've mentioned were sort of like, okay, it's like I could have done a little bit more research on the lead domain and having it in a domain name, and then, I should have done a little bit more research. Yeah, I could have done more due diligence with this partner who, again, I'm no longer talking to, right? Oh, Daniela says, are there any podcast horror stories? Yeah, the 4 times I forgot to hit record, the other time where it was just such a dry interview, there's just so many. They're not like super horror stories. I did an interview once and I lost it in a hard drive crash. I mean, those things exist. That's just a part of, honestly, in the world of podcasting, something bad has to happen at least once. It's just a rite of passage as a podcaster. So make sure you hit record. I've recorded on the wrong device. Plug in a webcam because I want to see the person. The audio input changes from my good microphone to that microphone from a webcam, and it just sounds like poo-poo. That's not cool. Not the most auspicious situation, but I'm definitely grateful that, I have had those things happen so that I can add it to the checklist and my standard operating procedure and never do those things again. And I can pass those on to you as well. Okay. So let me bedazzle you with another story that actually was not one that I could have controlled at all. At Reef says, thank you for all you do. Our past always makes our future. What you do with the past is what makes your future. I think how you react to it, how you learn from it, how you grow from it. Thank you. So Justin says, you're very brave to share all this. Yeah, thank you for your honesty. I mean, thank you. It's easy to share now in the place that I'm at, right? But very difficult to talk about back then. But again, I pass these things on to you so that we're all better equipped. I have a software right now. It actually is named Fusebox.fm. It's for podcasters to beautifully display their podcast on their website in a way that allows people to dig deeper, to get subscribes both to the podcast and an email list. It's a beautiful software. It also comes with a plugin to help you put your transcript on your website. All these great things. It's Fusebox.fm. That is a company that I own. Initially, it was actually called the Smart Podcast Player because it was just the player alone. And this was actually a tool that was developed out of a need within our business. And it was something that a lot of people saw that we had and they kept asking about. So we created a version that we could sell. And we have thousands of customers around the world. Tony Robbins uses it and many other people do. It's really cool. Well, we were selling this thing with a tool. I'll tell you the tool because they've hopefully made changes since then. We were selling this software through a platform called Gumroad. And Gumroad's a great tool. We've used it many times. It's still in existence today, and it serves many, many people. But it didn't serve us at this moment because here's what happens. We have a couple plans. We have an annual plan where you can pay to get access to the tool annually, or you can pay the Smart Podcast Player, my product, or you can, I probably gave it away. No, I didn't see it. It wasn't you, Kathy. It wasn't you. I saw it after I said it, and it wasn't you. I promise. Or we have a monthly subscription, right? Here's what happened. One day, I wake up, and I see 1,000+ sales of the Smart Podcast Player. I'm stoked. I wake up with additional, like, hundreds of thousands of dollars, like, coming in as a result of that. And I'm just like, what a day. This is a record in all my businesses. I cannot believe this happened. And then we get a barrage of emails from people who say, why did you double charge me? Or I just paid my annual fee. Why are you charging me again for the annual fee? Apparently something glitched in the system. And this had to do, remember back then when like something happened with Amazon S3, something was firing incorrectly and like the internet broke for like a couple days. Well, this was something that happened to me as a result of that. And again, Gumroad, great tool, it just broke at this time. So everybody who had paid annually, no matter when they paid, got charged again. That was not good. So here's what happened. We angrily sent an email to Gumroad to get some help, and they were very helpful, supposedly. They said, we have a couple options here. You can either offer everybody a refund just on your end, or we can do that for you. Just let us know. And they said, they were helping a whole bunch of other people and it might take a while. And we're like, you know what, we want to just do it on our own then. We'll go through the 1,000+ people who were double charged and send them a refund and then it will be square. So we do that. We get through everybody, my whole team, hands on deck. We refund everybody. Things should be cool. Wake up the next day. Everybody was refunded twice because they came in and did it automatically as well. So now we gave back the amount that we were owed. I hope that's coming across correctly. Basically, we had to go back to everybody and go, hey, can you kind of re-up again? It was not a good situation. This is the real horror, yeah. Oh, gosh. So one thing that happened is so first of all, double charged and then like double refunded when they should have only been charged once. It was just a horror story. My poor customer service people. OMG, yeah, right? And again, miscommunicate, whatever. Here's what I did. I was like, you know what? I have to send an email to everybody and just be very honest. I sent an email basically admitting to the mistake even before everybody sort of was able to respond, just to kind of let people know what was going on. And it was the most authentic, honest email that I could send, admitting fault, sharing what we're doing to solve this problem, empathizing with them to help them understand how frustrating this is. And we got back several emails from people who quit. They just didn't want to have to do anything with it anymore, which sucked. But we got a lot of emails back from people saying, hey, thank you for owning up to your mistake and for letting us know what you're doing to solve it. That's sometimes just what people want. They want to know that you're trying to do something to solve the problem. You don't necessarily have to have the solution right now, but they just don't want to be in the dark. And that was a big lesson for me at this time. And I'm very grateful that I was quick to send that email. It was actually an email that I sent after the first mistake, and then I sent another one after, but it was just not cool. So yeah, I did scream. Tamara. It was not good. But it happens. You kind of have to expect for those kinds of things to happen. And if they don't, okay, cool, that's a bonus. But if they do, it's not the end of the world. And again, I was very grateful that most people were pretty understanding. So, and then you move on. And the company has grown. The company has done very well. We've made some solutions changes, software changes over time, but it is something that can happen. So I share these stories with you not to scare you, but to share with you that this stuff can happen and that you can get through it, to equip you potentially with ammunition that you can use to combat any situations that might come across your way in the future. And, things always seem to work out. I know that's hard to consider in the moment, but things seem to work out one way or another, and you can move on and keep pushing forward. So that's the, is this the reason to stop Gumroad or Teachable? And I feel bad throwing Gumroad under the bus here. They've done so much to improve their product. It works. I haven't heard anything else happen after this. But for our needs with online courses, Teachable obviously makes sense because Gumroad is just the payment platform for that. So anyway, honesty, generosity, and being genuine goes a long way, and you have all those, my friend. Thank you, B-Roy. Appreciate it. And thanks for throwing those extra cards in there too, B-Roy. I appreciate it. I got your package. So anyway, I got to head out for an interview, Team Flynn, but this was a really fun day. Tomorrow, we're actually going to do an earlier start because we have a special guest who's only available early in the morning for us. And this person I'm really excited to have on. We're going to start at 7:30 a.m. Pacific. So again, that's 7:30 a.m. Pacific. We'll chat for a little bit. We'll invite this person on. We're going to have some fun. We're going to learn some things. This person is one of the most fun people I know. So I'm really excited to share and have them with us. So again, that's 7:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, 7:30 a.m. Pacific. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you all for being here today. I appreciate you, and I look forward to serving you tomorrow. Take care, and as always, Team Flynn for the win. Let's go!
This is the income stream to help you achieve your dream. All while we keep it clean. This is the income stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The income stream with Pat Flynn.
Thank you, Tamara. Thank you, Emily. Glad that you're having some good time at work listening in. Burke, appreciate you. John, Celine, Evolving with Etta, Bernard, Chugi, Daniela, Celine, Wendy, Ryan, Stephanie, all the mods here, B-Roy, Mr. Camera Junkie, Kelly, Gail, you're amazing. Take care. Peace out. Team Flynn for the win.